After 23 years of working with clients and helping them grow their practices, create less stress, create more income, achieve their objectives, I've heard some pretty crazy things. I've heard some really interesting things. I've heard some things that even after 23 years, I literally remember what they said verbatim. And some of those things are going to come out in other videos that I'm going to record in the future. But the one I have for you today is something that a client said to me, and I immediately had no response to it. I had no idea what they were getting at. I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't know why they said what they said at the time. However, it's something that has created a lasting impression for me and something I actually look for with clients as I start my engagements with them. So my name is Kevin Johnson. I am the CEO of Leverage Consulting, as well as the creator of Leverage You, an online university with tools and concepts and material for you to create your own practice, create less stress and more income. So what did the client say? What did they say to me in that questionnaire call? Well, I started the call and I started talking to them. And as we're going through the questionnaire, and one of the first things I do with them is just go through the numbers. Help me understand where you've been, where you are now, and where you want to be. And interestingly enough, as I'm going through it and I'm talking, he just cuts me off. And nice guy, super nice guy, somebody I worked with a long, long time ago, but I still stay in touch with periodically. He stopped me in mid-sentence and he said, "Look, I do not want you to grow my practice. In fact, here's the deal. If you grow my practice, I'm going to leave you a really bad review and I'm going to fire you." And I didn't know what to say to that. I had no idea. Like, why would you hire someone to work with you? Why would you hire a coach for your practice if you don't want to grow? And interesting, as we went through, and I started asking him, like, where are we going with this? Because I want to know. Because every time I start an engagement with a client, I want to know, where are we going with this thing? What do we want to do? If we look back a year from now, if we project into a year into the future and look back to today, what would you say was a success? What would you want to get out of this? And he said, "I don't want to grow." And after a lot of conversation and a lot of questions, this is what we boiled it down to. He equated more production, growth, with more stress. He saw that as a parallel. He saw that as something that just went hand in hand, that you cannot grow your practice, you cannot grow your business without more stress. And really what it boiled down to, what we brought it to, is so much of this was on his shoulders, and he looked at it like, if we do more, it just means more hours for me. It means I have more work. It means and his wife worked in the business too. It's going to be more stressful for her, more stressful for myself. And then when we go home, guess what? We take that stress home. So the end of the story is that we did grow his practice. And I joked with him at the end of the year because he grew around 20% after a year. But what he didn't realize is he's not the only producer in the practice. And he also didn't realize that it doesn't always fall on his shoulders. And one of the things they didn't do well, and it's one of the reasons why I named my company Leverage, is that he did not leverage himself through his team. He had a great group of people that worked with him, and he had a great group of people who wanted to do more. The problem was they didn't know how to help him. They didn't know what to do to help him. So after 1 year, they grew around 20%. But here's even the more interesting and fun part is that even though they grew 20%, they had less stress than when I started with them at the beginning of our 1 year engagement. So when I started with them, they thought, okay, we're stressed out. All we want to do is cut back on the stress. We just don't want more. I think even in their mind at the time, they thought, why don't we just scale it back? Maybe we're going to do less, so we have less stress. But instead, they, like so many other clients I've worked with over time, in a year's time, they went from being super stressed out to growing the practice and increasing their production by about 20%. And it's the funniest thing over time they thought they actually were doing worse. And again, much like other clients. And in another video, I'm going to talk about KPIs and the importance of them. But they were equating the stress level with their success level as well. So if they felt stressed out, woo, we must be making money. But if they weren't stressed out, they thought, oh, we have problems and we're not making money. And instead of watching the numbers, this is why weight loss coaches will tell you need to not only watch the scale, but you need to take measurements, because you might be exchanging fat for muscle. And in a sense, you might even gain weight. Who knows? You might gain weight, but instead, maybe you're going from one pant size to a smaller pant size to a smaller pant size, or maybe your shirts are fitting differently. It's the same type of concept, that when you are making changes in a practice, and in any big business, and when I say big business, if you're charging $1 million a year, or you're producing or collecting $1 million a year or more, $2 million a year, in general business ideas and concepts, $5 million and less is considered small business, but it's big business to you. It's yours. So when you are running this business, you really need to think about the KPIs and keeping an eye on those. And it doesn't mean that's one more responsibility for you. It might be a responsibility for a team member to update you on your day-to-day operations. It might be updating you on the week-to-week, month-to-month, and so on. So with these KPIs, it allows us to monitor this. But the other thing that you'll want to do is, within your team meetings, is get a pulse on the team as well. And even at day end or start of day, is how was yesterday's schedule? How do you view today's schedule? And it might be a particularly heinous looking schedule, and someone might pipe up and say, no big deal. We've done that before. That's actually that, even though there's a lot of patients, we can do that. No big deal. And that will show and demonstrate to you that their stress levels have started to subside themselves. So it was really cool. Even with this client, years later, as I said, I stayed in contact with them. I still talk to them. I talked to them actually during our COVID period. They actually, right at the beginning of that, they got stuck on their trip of a lifetime in South America. And it was, I think, a bit of a retirement gift from the wife to the husband. But in a sense, they got stuck down there. And as talking to them, they were still commenting and talking about how the team talked about the things that we did way back when with their practice and what we had done and accomplished. So when you're thinking about your own practice, and when you're thinking about your own team, the success you've had, the frustrations you have, and you think about where you are today, okay? When you think about growth, are you visualizing it in a way that is just going to be more stressful for you? And in fact, many of the clients that I've worked with over time, they might have gone from a $2 million producer to a $5 million producer. And I'm talking about one doctor, not multiple doctors, but for a one doctor practice to go from a $2 million a year practice to a $5 million a year practice, they might actually have more personal time. And that's one of the things that I look for when I work with a client, are what are the other things that they're able to do? Are they completely entrenched in their practice? They have no time. They have no ability to do anything else with their family, with their hobbies, with their interests, with their workouts, their exercise, anything like that. Do they do anything for themselves other than be a doctor and a business owner? That's something that I look for, and that's something that you should look for. So even though you're thinking about growing your practice, you should be thinking about doing it in such a way that I can add, let's just say, $500,000 in production, but I'm going to do so and I'm going to gain part of my life back. Because when you can produce another $500,000, if you can produce $100,000, you can leverage yourself with other team members. You can find other team members. You can hire someone else to help you. And when I say that, it could be somebody inside your practice, could be someone external, but you now have the money to invest in your practice to then scale it again. Keyword, scale. This isn't about a direct proportional production and stress ratio. This is scaling. And when we scale, we can do it in such a way that we can produce significantly more, potentially exponentially more, and simultaneously reduce your level of stress. So be like my client, be like my friend, think about reducing your stress while increasing your income. So if you like content like this, you want to think more about your practice and what you can do to level it up. My name is Kevin Johnson, the CEO of Leverage Consulting, as well as the creator of Leverage You. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hit that notification button because I have more videos coming out like this every week.